Hare Krishna, Bhagavad-gita Ki Jai. You have to turn it on.
Oh yeah, because I turned it off when I was fiddling.
How's that? Hare Krishna. It can't be too much, it can't be too little. So we're beginning on verse number 31.
31.
31 beginning, which has no purport.
Yeah.
Right. I have a pair of glasses somewhere in here. It's in my pocket.
I have a spare.
I have a nose here somewhere. Oh, it's on my, right in my, between my eyes. Reading from the Bhagavad-gita.
Yeah, so 31 has no purpose.
As It Is. This is the chapter, conclusion, the perfection of renunciation. And what Krishna is explaining here are important endeavors or things that we have and or do as human beings in this world. We have an understanding, we have a determination, we have a type of work that we do. Everyone does, and it's being described how the three primary modes of material nature will influence everyone, certainly animals and other species of life, but human beings also who do not dedicate their life or the mission or goal of their life to achieving self-realization or to ultimately dedicating themselves to devotional service, or simply stated, trying to please God or being in alignment with the absolute truth. So to the degree that that's not one's goal, then to the degree that one's determination, one's faith, one's work, one's understanding of things will have certain symptoms, and just like a doctor can tell by certain symptoms, by detection, and what did they say when the doctor will give you an examination? He can tell what is your disease and how you're suffering. So a spiritual doctor, a brahmana, he can actually understand why people are the way they are, why they think the way they think, why they're attached to a certain thing, to do a certain thing this way, with they're exhibiting different symptoms. Now, of course, in the Krishna, Prabhupada says in one place, as long as one is not envious of the principle of Krishna consciousness, and the principle of Krishna consciousness is very basic. Krishna is God. We're subordinate living entity. Surrender to God. It's not like, the conquering empire comes in and overturns everybody. Surrender whether I like it or not. But surrender actually to Krishna means to be on the stage of complete self-fulfillment. You understand who you really are, and your actual desire for happiness and all varieties of personhood are completely fulfilled in quote-unquote surrender to Krishna. Because what happens is you're transferred to the internal pleasure-giving potency of the Lord, the spiritual world, which is by far much more unlimited and desirable facility to happiness than the so-called happiness of this world, the material world, which is actually not happiness at all, but it is simply an illusion of happiness that actually perpetuates perpetual bondage or wandering within the maze of material life, which is characterized by four very primary problems that no amount of so-called material advancement, scientific advancement, modernity can solve. And I'm sure we all know what they are. Birth, death, old age, and disease. So these are the real problems of life, and the Vedic literatures and all bona fide spiritual masters direct our attention to understand that these are the real problems of life. And birth, death, disease, and old age occurs within a samsara chakra. It's a repetition of repeated birth, death, disease, and old age. That's one of the preliminary and basic instructions, foundational instructions of the Bhagavad-gita. For the soul is neither birth nor death, nor having once been does he ever cease to be. He's unborn, undying, primeval. He's not slain when the body is slain. Yet, for one who is under the illusion of the material conditioning, then he's identifying himself more or less just like a nightmare victim experiencing a bad dream, is identifying with all the fear, anxiety, and terror that's in the nightmare, although it is simply a dream. And what is the cure? Easy cure for getting out of the nightmare is to wake up. So Krishna consciousness is the ultimate waking up, but it's a real concerted effort, and it's a real wake up. It's not just, waking up from sleep. But we see, if we're at all serious in attempting to come to true reality and get out of the illusion of material life, we can just see how heavy is the material energy, the Maya, the illusory energy by which people think so-called happiness is life's goal and is pursuable, to the extent where they forget their prime duty to solve the repetition of repeated birth, death, disease, and old age. That's actually the most wonderful thing. We see, especially in a city like New York and all other big cities around the world, so-called modern cities, everyone is very, very smart. Like here in Manhattan, every penny counts, every inch of space counts. Everyone's calculating money in all major, minor, and sideways, different ways. So many, you have to have lawyers from analyze all different ins and outs so that not even a penny is squandered by mismanagement. And, it's just very, very alert, very, very sharp. You go to school, you get a degree to be able to do all these things better than other people, But they have no information of who they are, what happens when they leave this body, what is their next destination, what they actually should be doing. It's simply amazing. There's a funny story that Srila Prabhupada heard from his spiritual master, the scholar and the boatman. This is during British times in India. The British, at the height of their rule, were known to be very proud and righteous people, falsely egotistical person. They even had one English writer or something, what was his name? Rudyard Kipling, and he came out with this idea, the white man's burden. That it's the Britishers' mercy to bathe the colored man. We conquer their lands and bring them up from being barbarians and teach them the manners of white Anglo-Saxon culture. Like, especially, they're going into India, which is the height of all culture, because it is the culture of Krishna, Sanatana Dharma, and they're making so much offense. And actually, Srila Prabhupada, to the culture, to the people, to the philosophy, because of the British Empire's offense, in particular, to the original Vedic culture in India, they lost their empire very, very quickly. So they're very, very alert on the material platform, but spiritually. So that's what's going to be described here, we'll hear in today's verses. Understanding, determination, that is particularly in the mode of ignorance or darkness, always sees things opposite. So without further ado, we will chant verse 31. I'll just say that and read the verse, and then 32 we can say together, and perhaps we'll read verse 33 also. So verse 31, Yaya dharman adharmam cha, karyam chakaryam eva cha, ayatavat prajanati, ude sa partha rajasi. The translation, O son of Pritha, that understanding which cannot distinguish between religion and irreligion, between action that should be done and action that should not be done, is in the mode of passion. So we should direct our attention, just look again briefly to verse 29, which is describing these things in the best way in the mode of goodness. That understanding by which one knows what ought to be done and what ought not to be done, what is to be feared and what is not to be feared, what is binding and what is liberating, is in the mode of goodness. Just like the most heinous of all sinful activities and karma is to kill the cow for so-called human consumption. So that has been the vanguard in the original Vedic culture in India since time immemorial. But we even see today that India has become one of the largest beef exporters in the world. And someone was told me that either it's been passed in the Indian parliament or they're trying to pass it that dasi cows are actually cows. That means native cows that come from a breed that were native to India, but crossbreeds or any other type of cows, even though they're living there. Dasi means a citizen of the country. Right. So that includes the animals. Like here, like, of course, you have the current president of the United States trying to make it very tough for immigrants or people from other countries who are here on various levels, right, Gaurav? You know something about that? Okay. Homeland security. We're making our homeland secure, right? We're all sons of Krishna, and Krishna is the Lord of every place. And as sons of the Supreme Father, we have a right to go anywhere, So, one who lives here is a native, and everyone else is an alien, like a monster, from alien, from outer space. That's not a nice word. So they want to make an excuse there in the Indian Parliament that non-dasi cows from other breeds that came from other countries, that's all right to kill them and sell their meat, because the economic problem we have to solve. So much bad karma. Chennai, Madras, which is the 6th largest city in India, has completely run dry of water. All city reservoirs, no water. That is karmic reaction. So that's one example. And of course, abortion. The hedonists will say, well, sex is natural, attraction between man and woman. Of course, these days, attraction between anybody is natural, or anything, keep your laws off my body, right? But, well, you say that's natural, but what's also natural is that children come from at least a male and female's relationship. Anyway, and the children who come from that, it's natural for them to have a loving mother and father who stay together. So we've heard. Something from the antiquated past, those things happened, right? But abortion, even they say abortion late term up to, even till the child comes out of the womb, it's okay for abortion. And after a certain period, an abortion means, I think after the 4th month or something, the body is formed, and the suction is not going to get it out. You have to go. The so-called abortion doctor has to go in with like a sutures or whatever those things, squeeze and pull the baby apart limb by limb. Yeah. So this is knowledge of what is not. They don't know what is to be done and what is not to be done, and they don't know by engaging in the. And we could stay here all night and list so many other things. They don't know what they're doing. It's totally crazy. Just like if we were to drive a car like 90 miles an hour down the street, it's obvious that we can't do that here in New York City, and if you were to do that, they would say, are you out of your mind? Are you crazy? So what to speak of exploiting the laws of material nature like that? It's that crazy. So now we'll read verse 32 together. Okay? Translation. That understanding which considers irreligion to be religion and religion to be irreligion under the spell of illusion and darkness and strives always in the wrong direction, O Partha, is in the mode of ignorance. Please repeat. That understanding which considers irreligion to be religion.
Which considers irreligion to be religion.
And religion to be irreligion.
And religion to be irreligion.
Under the spell of illusion and darkness.
Under the spell of illusion and darkness.
And strives always in the wrong direction.
And strives always in the wrong direction.
O Partha is in the mode of ignorance.
Is in the mode of ignorance.
Purport by His Divine Grace, ISKCON's BBT, Bhaktivedanta Book Trust, Founder Acharya, Srila Prabhupada Ki. Intelligence in the mode of ignorance is always working in the opposite way. Opposite of the way it should. It accepts religions which are not actually religious and rejects actual religion. Men in ignorance understand a great soul to be a common man and reject the common man and accept the common man as a great soul. They think truth to be untruth and accept untruth as truth. In all activities, they simply take the wrong path. Therefore, their intelligence is in the mode of ignorance. Could you maybe, or someone lend me their smartphone, and pull up Chapter 2 of the 12th Canto, Symptoms of Kali Yuga. I'd like to maybe read a few of those. Om Jnana-timirandasya Jananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Umlitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kadamayam Didati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavams Cha Shri Rupam Sagujatam Sahagana Raganatan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakavitam Cha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bando Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Mostite Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Rami Ripriye Vanchakalpatarubias Cha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Itanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Dharmam iti yat manyate tamasabrita sarvartan viparitams cha buddhi saparta tamasi. That understanding which considers irreligion to be religion and religion to be irreligion under the spell of illusion and darkness and strives always in the wrong direction, O Partha, is in the mode of ignorance. Srila Ravindra Swarup Prabhu, who's one of our important devotees, disciples of Srila Prabhupada, he's quite the scholarly, very intelligent devotee, and he has helped ascertain things properly for our movement in many difficult situations. He's living now nicely in upstate New York, and he has a weekly class that he gives on the Bhagavatam, and of late he's been reading the 12th Canto, and he actually has the unique distinction of being the first. He ultimately became Srila Prabhupada's disciple, but Prabhupada landed here in New York in September 1965 and stayed a month in western Pennsylvania, Butler, which is a little bit north of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And towards the end of October, on his way back to New York City, he had the invitation of one, what was his name? Ram Krishnamurti, a impersonate yogi who had
The author? Krishnamurti?
Not Krishnamurti,
No.
Ram Krishnamurti, 72nd Street,
Okay.
Uptown, West Side.
Okay.
So on the way, he had gotten an invitation to speak at Slippery Rock University, which is somewhere in eastern Pennsylvania, and also the University of Pennsylvania in Philadelphia.
Mm.
And Ravindra Swarup, along with his girlfriend at the time, who's now his wife of over almost 55 years, Sudamini, they were young college students there, and University of Pennsylvania in Philadelphia. Yeah.
Yeah.
And which is near South Street.
Is it?
Yeah, South Street. And you
Yeah,
go to
yeah.
Hare
I
Krishna.
booked it street.
That's right. Myself and Atmanivedana share a very rich and colorful history, you know.
We had some nice drives, actually.
Yeah.
Actually, I think one of our eventful drives was in
Off the school
Philly.
kill and you get off the South Street exit.
I think so. Like
Right.
we had some fast-moving drives in the van.
Right, twist, turn, you don't want
On
to
the
kill
way
your...
to the book distribution stop.
It's school kill, so don't kill your skull, right? So anyway, so he saw Prabhupada walking across the campus. Who is this? You know, and to see an Indian person in the 1960s was a rare thing, and what to speak of an uncompromised, you know, sadhu, and what to speak of seeing Srila Prabhupada. And so anyway, he went on to become, and actually he has, Ravindra Swarup, since we're talking, he went to, you know, the Sunday feast in Philadelphia, and he heard the devotee giving the class, and it was a real heavy lecture, you know, like material life, dogs, hogs, camels, and asses, you know, the whole heavy, and, you know, illicit sex life and intoxication, and it will just bring you to hell and all these things. And Ravindra Swarup, he thought to himself, great, finally, these people are speaking the real thing, you know. So that's one good evidence that you don't compromise your message, and that good people will come from that. So,
Good people.
so in the
Good people will stay.
yes, so in the early days, not so much these days, still a little bit, but in those days, like 45, 50 years ago, the devotees were like seen for the first time in public in uncompromised dress, shaved heads, chanting Hare Krishna, and people who considered themselves Christians. That's a whole discussion, who's actually a Christian or not. I was just hearing Prabhupada speaking with someone in Paris in 1974 and said, we're better Christians than the Christians because we don't kill, and you know, we accept that. Anyway, so many things. So they would come out and you're of the devil, and you're going to go to hell, and you're going to burn in fire unless you bathe in the blood of Jesus, whatever that means. And horrible, you know. And take your spiritual master and bathe in his blood, you know. My goodness. So Jesus Christ himself, when he was healing or raising from the dead, he was accused himself of doing the work of the devil. And his response, which was, how can a house divided against itself still stand? That, is this the devil's work? Can the devil do this? Bring life to the dead? So Ravindra Swarup Prabhu's answer to these fanatical Christians was, I've given up illicit sex, meat eating, intoxication. Is this the work of the devil? I've given up sinful activities. And of course, they had no answer. So this is a symptom of accepting irreligion as religion, and pure religion right there before you. This Sankirtan movement, the chanting Hare Krishna in public, especially in particular, is the greatest display of pure devotional service, or the activity that is most pleasing to the Supreme Lord. And anyone who's a little bit innocent, not too much covered over by demoniac propensities, they will be attracted, they will be noticed. It's described in the knowledge of the Supreme Personality of Godhead results in immediate suspension of the waves and whirlpools of material anxiety and misery, and produces great transcendental happiness. This is in the second canto. Who would fail to be attracted? So when one develops the lower modes of nature, then these types of conceptions where you accept something which is very heinous and demoniac is very good. They even have different philosophical systems. They have called alternate fact philosophy, which is very nicely for politicians. That it's not this way, it's this way, and you present all logic. There's one symptom of the age of Kali, one who is very audacious. He will known to be truthful. In fact, Ravindra Swarupi was saying that Adolf Hitler, in his Mein Kampf, I forget the exact premise he was presenting, but it basically ended up blaming the Jews for all the problems in Germany and Europe, and the solution is to just exterminate the Jews. And it was such an outrageous thing, so audacious. And his philosophy, the more audacious, the more crazy it is, the more people will think, because it's so crazy, it has to be true. Because nobody would say something so crazy, with such conviction and that's the age of Kali. And because people this is the age where people can get the full bitter fruits of their sinful activities and material desires. So these types of philosophies and understandings are going to be very much in vogue and in demand. Truthfulness, religion, cleanliness, tolerance, mercy, duration of life, physical strength, and memory will diminish day by day because of the powerful influence of the age of Kali. In Kali Yuga, wealth alone will be considered a sign of a man's good birth, proper behavior, and fine qualities. Just like the current president of the United States. How is he elected? Because he's the biggest businessman, supposedly. And, we need a very smart businessman to run this country. And what is the success of this country? That people have as much money as possible. And whatever, goodness, virtue, ethics has to be sacrificed for that money, well, so be it. Wealth alone will be considered the sign of a man's good birth, proper behavior, and fine qualities. And law and justice will be applied only on the basis of one's power. You have money, justice. No money, no justice. Men and women will live together merely because of superficial attraction. Why do we need a paper to prove our love? My love for you is in my heart. And success in business will depend on deceit. I'm sure you could say a lot of things about that, right? Womanliness and manliness will be judged according to one's expertise in sex. And a man will be known as a Brahmin just by wearing a thread. A person's spiritual position will be ascertained merely according to external symbols, and on the same basis, people will change from one spiritual order to the next. This is true, go over, get a new look, reinvent yourself, Or like a big entertainer, they're going to do a tour, a big, rock concert. This was the such and such tour, and they dressed like this, and the colors were like this, and now we reinvented ourselves, make it more shocking, even more crazy than the last time, because they're under pressure to, A person's propriety will be seriously questioned if he doesn't earn a good living. If you earn a good living, then you must be doing something right. You figured it out, right? But actually, real success is to give up the materialistic way of life of exploiting God's creation for sense gratification and illusion, but to actually renovate your eternal loving relationship with Krishna, with God. And even better than that is to help other people either by your own individual effort or especially recommended in this age by collective sang, kirtan means together, effort to give as many, what to speak of people, other living, the animals too. I heard some number, 50 million cows are slaughtered in this country every year for McDonald's. There's a Holocaust going on every day. These living entities are waiting for Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement, for the movement of the pure devotees to spread this planet and truly uplift and save the faithful and the innocent, paritranaya sadhunam, and put down the demons and the miscreants. What is it? Vinashaya Traduskritam. And one who is clever at juggling words will be considered a learned scholar. A person will be judged unholy if he does not have money. And hypocrisy will be accepted as virtue. Marriage will be arranged simply by verbal agreement. And a person, we won't read all of them. Filling the belly will become the ultimate goal of life, and one who is audacious will be accepted as truthful. The principles of religion will be observed only for the sake of reputation. Right? There was some picture of Bill Clinton touring the Warsaw Cemetery where victims of the Warsaw Ghetto. So then there's like a Jewish memorial, and on Holocaust Day, he was running for re-election, and I think the snide reporters put in there, Bill Clinton in favorable photo opportunity. It's like a Republican newspaper or something. As the earth becomes crowded with a corrupt population, whoever among any of the social classes shows himself to be the strongest will gain political power. So this is describing what many good people will do, especially those who are, in these cities. Losing their wives and properties to such avaricious and merciless rulers who will behave no better than ordinary thieves. The citizens will flee to the mountains and forests. Harassed by famine and excessive taxes, people will resort to eating leaves, roots, flesh, wild honey, fruits, flowers, and seeds. Struck by drought, they will become completely ruined. So you see in many places in the world this is happening. The maximum duration of life for human beings in Kali Yuga will become 50 years. That's happening. It should be 100 years. Should be standard. By the time the age of Kali ends, the bodies of all creatures will be greatly reduced in size, and religious principles of followers of Varnashram will be ruined. The path of the Vedas will be completely forgotten. There won't even be an idea of religion at all. The kings will be mostly thieves. The occupations of men will be stealing, lying, and needless violence, and all the social classes will be reduced to the lowest level of Sudras. Family ties will extend no further than the immediate bonds of marriage. That's happening. Or so-called together, or whatever, Most plants and herbs will be tiny, and all trees will appear will be very small. So this is at the very end. At that time, Krishna will come as Kalki avatar, and he will rescue eternal religion. So, Maharaj Parikshit, this is the 12th canto. You can take back. Thank you, Colette. Thank you. This is chapter 2 of the 12th canto. Maharaj Parikshit has been hearing with rapt attention for 7 days, knowing that he's coming to the end of his life by the curse of the Brahmin boy Shringi. And it's being explained by the Acharyas, this is being explained to him, and next will be described all the different types of annihilation, which are greatly inconvenient for anyone. Even they become elevated to the level of the Prajapatis and the original sages, the chief sons of Lord Brahma. They also, if they're not completely qualified and pure, must undergo the devastation of this the complete devastation of this universe. So all of these things are being explained to Maharaj Parikshit to help, not so much him, but to illustrate to each and every one of us how it's necessary to develop complete detachment from this material world. So, Shukadeva Goswami speaks an incredible verse, which is supremely encouraging, and everything that we just heard, it just turns it around 180 degrees, and we should understand that we're living in the most best and fortunate of times. And the verse is, what is the second verse I always say in the end of Kaler dosa nade rajan, hasti ek mahadgunad, kirtanad eva krishnasya, mukta sangha param vrajet. My dear king, although this age of Kali is an ocean of faults, like here we are all here in the sacred place of Srila Prabhupada's first temple, and we're all coming here like-minded. Nobody's been brought in here at gunpoint. You know, we're bringing in you here, and you're going to listen to a Hare Krishna lecture in handcuffs, you know. We're all here by choice. And that choice is, we've all come about it with due diligence and with our intelligence, with prayers and longing in our heart, you know, communing with God. And that's why we're here. And that this atmosphere, and it's actually recommended, this is the best way to insulate yourself. Just like if it's, you know, raining very hard, or it's a terrible blizzard, freezing cold, you go in a warm place, or you take shelter. So this type of holy association, it completely puts out the influence of Kali Yuga. So Maharaj Parikshit's being encouraged in this verse. Although this ocean of Kali is an ocean of faults, there's still one good quality. You have like unlimited bad, but just one good thing. Or you can think 999,000 bad and one good. Well, that's not very good. At least let me have 500,000 good and 500,000 bad to balance it all out, maybe, you know. That's what the mundane people, oh, you got to take the good with the bad so you can enjoy the good, you know. The bad with the good, you know, that's their nonsense. But the one good thing makes all the other 999,000 things disappear. And that is simply by taking to Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement of chanting and distributing Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, you can get what you couldn't even gotten in previous ages, Dwarpa, Treta, and Kali, where you could live for up to 1,000 years, 10,000 years, or in the first of ages, living 100,000 years, where the principles of religion were at the 100% point, going down to 75, 50. Kali Yuga, which started 5,000 years ago, at that point was only at 25%, going down to zero. That's where we are now, gliding to zero. Actually, it's explained that because Lord Chaitanya has brought the Sankirtan movement in this age of Kali, it doesn't happen in every age of Kali, the stringent conditions are happening quicker and faster, because Kali Yuga lasts 432,000 years. So if there's another 427,000 years to go, it's kind of happening pretty fast. You know, what's going to happen, you know, how can we live like this for another 427,000 years, you know? It's because in this age, Lord Chaitanya has come and has created a Sankirtan movement, which is the topmost, creates the topmost atmosphere, even higher than Satya Yuga. Because what is being distributed via the medium of the Hare Krishna movement, the Hare Krishna chanting, is the facility to achieve the highest form of prema, the highest form of love of Godhead, that brings one way beyond even the topmost heavenly planets in this universe, where people they're very noble, they're very pious, but they still have material desires, which means that they have to come back for repeated birth and death. It brings you beyond Vaikuntha, which at the very best, if there's any sincere religious people in this world, at best, if they're not in knowledge of what Lord Chaitanya is distributing, at best, they can come to the platform of understanding and worship of God in awe and reverence, at best. But beyond Aishvarya, Gyan, or knowledge of God's opulence and majesty, is knowledge of God's loving feature, which is the postgraduate study, which includes, if you're a postgraduate, it means you already have graduate and high school and junior high school. You have all that inside of your doctorate degree, automatically included. So, in this most fallen age, that post-doctorate degree is being given. And it creates very powerful samskar. Samskar means impression. Sometimes there's discussion in the Hare Krishna movement, people are on various levels. If you give them too much, they won't be able to accept. Or if we make it a little more, quote unquote, watered down, a little more easy, don't tell everybody they have to give up illicit sex, meat eating, intoxication, and gambling. We'll get so many more followers. Just chant Hare Krishna and do whatever you like, But it doesn't work like that, ultimately. In the beginning, it could be like that, But if you continue, it's almost like in Christianity, Christ, there are rules and regulations to follow if you actually want to get what Christ wants to actually elevate you and to offer to you. But instead, if they just turn what Christ gave and say he died for your sins. I was in, where was I? I was somewhere. And, some different churches, they have like signboards you can read on the road or walking down the street. And, today's Sunday, next Sunday lecture, and it said, Christ paid and you get to keep the change.
No responsibility.
Oh. Prabhupada was in Mexico City, and he was staying in a hotel, and Roman, very strong Catholic area, and in his room was a crucifix, maybe this big, Christ in agony on the cross, and it was really graphic. Blood, and Shyamasundar Prabhu, who just came forth with Chasing Rhinos Volume 2, if anyone knows. Shyamasundar was one of the earliest disciples of Prabhupada, and he's coming out with his memoir of his times with Prabhupada. This is very, very exciting and wonderful reading. I recommend it to anyone and everyone. So, Shyamasundar was tending Prabhupada, and Prabhupada called him in and said, please remove this. I can't look at this. They've killed their spiritual master so that they can go on sinning. This is the most horrible thing. So, Krishna, coming in the form of the holy name, is so wonderful that anyone can chant. But Sango Pangastra Parshadam, there's another verse, Krishna Varnam Tisa Krishnam, Sango Pangastra Parshanam, Yagnai Sankirtana Prayer, Yajanti Hi Sumedasaha. That Krishna has come with all of his weapons, all of his associates, and all of his potencies, Nija Sharva Shaktis. He himself says, Lord Chaitanya in Shishastakam too, I've invested all my transcendental potencies in these holy names. So, in the Satya Yuga, the demons, the good and the bad people lived on different planets. Imagine this Earth planet, only the good, and the bad people live on Mars or something. It wouldn't be too much problem. In the next Yuga, Treta Yuga, different countries on this planet. Like we see, there's still friction, but especially when I was a kid, the Cold War between America and USSR, who's going to push the button for destroying this planet first, Bay of Pigs, I remember I was a little boy, and, John F. Kennedy, and ducking under your seat in school, and fire drill, and bomb shelter. In Dwapara Yuga, like we read the Mahabharata, and there's a Bhagavad-gita, I have to kill my family members, Krishna, this is overwhelming, in the same family. And in Kali Yuga, the demon and the devotee live in the same body. So how are you going to kill the demon? You're going to shoot an arrow right here, and that's a part of the heart that's going to kill the demon, but me, the devotee, will still live. So the very, very, very exact doctor can go in there and do the heart surgery. Krishna, in the form of his holy name, he's killing the demoniac propensity and resurrecting the divine and saintly devotee. There's one verse by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami where he begins a chapter in the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. He does this a lot, it's very beautiful. It's called Kaviraj, means the king of poets. Uttama Shloka. Krishna was praised with the most beautiful choice poetry and most perfect chosen elegant words. That Kaviraj Goswami says, I'm suffering all over my body due to boils of envy. Anyone ever have a boil? How painful it is? Imagine having many boils all over. And I'm being bitten by the internal germs of material desires, sinful, lusty desires. Falling in an ocean of humility, I take shelter of the supreme physician, Dr. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Chaito Darpana Marjanam, Bhava Mahadevagni Nivarpanam, Shreya Karaiva Chandrika Vitaranam, Vidya Vadu Jivanam. Let there be all victory to this chanting of Hare Krishna, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years, extinguishes the real problem of life. Prahlad Maharaj tells his friends, the real problem of life is the spinning wheel of repeated birth and death, spinning round and round, extinguishing the fire of conditional life, of repeated birth and death. And by that, this Sankirtan movement is the ultimate welfare mercy for everyone, for humanity at large. This Sankirtan is the prime benediction for humanity at large. It gives a cooling effect to everyone, gives everyone the real happiness that they're really seeking for, which can never be found in this material world, like chasing a mirage in the desert, never to be fulfilled. Param Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtana. So, this chanting of Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada has brought. I think it was in the next temple, San Francisco, where Prabhupada went in January 1967, which was the height and of the peace and love and the hippie movement at its height before things became degraded by so many factors. And it was like a common man is taken as a saint. If you read Prabhupada Lilamrita, LSD saints, you have to be very careful of these people because it was just accepted that anyone who was high on LSD was like a saint. And if you were to criticize them or to harm them or, to try to restrict them in any way, people would look very bad on us, So one LSD saint was like, Prabhupada's lecturing and he's interrupting, what about my mind? And he said, what about my mind? My mind, what about my mind? And Prabhupada said, I have no other answer. I have no other medicine. Please take to the chanting. So, those are a few things about this verse. We'll read the verse and the purport again, because it's short, and then we'll take questions. That understanding which considers irreligion to be religion, and religion to be irreligion under the spell of illusion and darkness, and strives always in the wrong direction, O Partha, is in the mode of ignorance. Intelligence in the mode of ignorance is always working opposite of the way that it should. I remember when I was a small, not too small, maybe 8 years old, I go to summer camp. And one day they had backwards day. So whoever could do the most things backwards would win a prize. You put your button shirt on backwards, you put your left sneaker on your right, and put the sneakers at the top and at the bottom, your pants on backwards. If you could write with your left hand upside down and backwards, if you could walk on your hands, as much as you could do, and practically at the same time, if you could do all those things, you'd win. So that's kind of this age. Always working the opposite way that it should. Men in ignorance understand a great soul to be a common man. Instead of worshiping Krishna, we'll go to some rock concert or whatever. I don't know, do they call them rock concerts these days? That's from 30, 40 years ago. I don't know what they call these things now, but standing on the stage with sequins, and he's got colored hair, and the light show, and loud microphone, and singing all about sense gratification, and he's all like buff with muscles. Yeah, God, bow down, They don't understand who is Krishna to reject him, because there is no God. It's just how fallen people are. They think truth to be untruth, and they accept untruth as truth. The most hedonistic, heinous type of sense gratification. Wow, that's really chic. Those people must be really, really cool, I'll leave you with one more horrible thing. Prabhupada was being told when he was here in the 55th Street Temple in July of 1976 that Andy Warhol, Andy Warhol was like, what was that thing that he had? The electric factory, or something, whatever it was called. And they just prided themselves on doing the most heinous and most outrageous things and thinking that it was cool. So they would go to abortion clinics and take the fetuses of aborted babies and cook them and have a feast. So that was told to Prabhupada that these people are doing this, and they're such a worshipful personality. There's practically monuments and tributes and painting murals to this crazy person in this city. He's taken as a saint, New York City saint, because he performed these wonderful, auspicious activities in our great city, In all activities, they simply take the wrong path. Therefore, their intelligence is in the mode of ignorance. Any questions or comments?
I had a question about the
Yeah.
symptoms of Kali Yuga you're reading.
Okay.
Some of them you said kind of started already, but when do you think the other ones will actually start?
See, this is the interesting thing, that Kali Yuga is, now it's summertime. It's the summer solstice today. Yesterday. No overlap or something. Or sometimes it's on the 22nd. But anyway, it's like if you heat up a frying pan on the flame, it's been at full blast. The heat in the frying pan might not immediately be there. It might take some time for the heat to heat up the whole pan.
Right.
So in the same way, this is the longest day of the year, but it's been building up. Okay, but it's not been hot. But now the days are going to start diminishing, but this is when we expect to get heat waves. July, August, right? So that's just the natural progression of things. So that's the natural order of Kali Yuga, but there's the Sankirtan movement was started 500 years ago. And also Krishna himself, once in a day of Lord Brahma. This is a special Kali Yuga double special, because Krishna was here 5,000 years ago. Lord Chaitanya was here 500 years ago. So those two, so the counteracting path. Now, we're speaking of all the bad things, let's think of some good things. In the 1960s, to be a vegetarian, you'd be thought of to be crazy. We just had Kavi Chandramarsh here. He's somewhat older than me. And he was a teenager when he became, how old was he? He must have been about 18, 19 years old, 1968. And he decided to be a vegetarian. And his family were just so upset, and they brought him to the doctor, and the doctor said, I don't know how you're going to be able to live, because the idea of being a eating back then, you have a slab of roast beef and then maybe a little ice cream scoop of peas or mashed potatoes. You got to eat your Brussels sprouts. That's it. But you're just going to eat some peas and Brussels sprouts? Oh, my little boy, It's like, or you're veggie. Oh, you're just they'll use some bad term, like you're a queer, or you're this, you're that, or whatever, that's, so it's described that Krishna Surya Sam, before just when the sun is, even before it gets to the horizon, where you first see the very first top of the sun disk coming over the horizon, still the dawn is there, and the darkness of night is dissipated. So it's the beginning of the Sankirtan movement, and especially Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda predicted that Lord Nityananda said there'd be a Senapati Bhakta, that means a commander-in-chief, Vaishnava, who would take the Sankirtan movement and spread it all over the world. And that's our Srila Prabhupada. He did that. And now we can look at statistics. The Hare Krishna movement that Srila Prabhupada started is grown in so many significant ways. And I think in terms of vegetarianism, practically speaking, any restaurant that's going to stay in business will have to have vegetarian dishes. Even now, I saw like, different like big companies that make things that like Subway or Taco Bell, they'll have a vegetarian or even vegan. Vegan is actually a misunderstanding because, the cow is sacred, and drinking cow's milk that are being taken care of. It nourishes your brain so you can understand spiritual subject matters. Surabir Abhipaliyantam, Krishna, here he's tending the cows. Namo Brahmanya Devaya, go. Go means cow. Govinda, he's the protector of the cows. So there's great spiritual significance. Yes, protect the cow, but don't drink the cow's milk. You're not really understanding things. So the vegan movement is a movement that ultimately has to be corrected. Yes.
So it's true there's certain nutrients in the dairy that you really need for your brain and your body.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And even, the nutrients and all those things, you can analyze it scientifically, but because Krishna says it, and his pure devotees say it, and his pure devotees do it, that should be the end of discussion. That's actually the best thing. You make a very easy solution to all, this, that, the other thing. If Krishna says to do it, you just do it. Like even Prabhupada is supremely intelligent. He said, my spiritual master ordered me. I followed that order blindly, not like crazy, but he ordered this. I have complete faith that by doing it is completely blessed by the Supreme Lord, and all of the Lord's associates, there will be very profound success. And that was Prabhupada's determination, and that's why we're all here today. Because of Prabhupada's determination, he went through so much obstacles. He wasn't able to come till the age of 69, 70, on a freight boat. We know the story. It's simply amazing. He lived in this city for 9 months. He lived on the Bowery. Did anybody have any? Leela Majari, you remember what the Bowery was like?
Oh, terrible.
Yeah.
It was hell.
It was hellish. Now it's like one of the highest priced places in the world,
It was pretty bad for a while after that, too. By the
after
time I
that.
joined, it was still pretty bad.
Right.
But even
Maybe only in the last 20 years. Things started turning around when the 26 Second Avenue came back into our fold, which was in 1991. I remember coming here for the reopening in July of 1991. It would just have been, anyway, so many things we could say. Anything else? Yes, Prabhu.
I was just wondering, back when, because you were talking about Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement, you were talking about you can know what's right to do just by looking what great devotees and who we follow, what they did. So I was just wondering, was there any bridge preaching when Lord Chaitanya was there?
Bridge preaching?
Yeah.
Does everybody know what bridge preaching is?
No.
Okay, here's an example that I just heard. Bridge preaching means, you don't identify yourself as a devotee of Krishna right away. You we want to, talk about, I'm going to be like, motivational guru, self-actualization. Prabhupada one time, he was asked if he would like to speak at a vegetarian society. And Prabhupada said, can I speak about Krishna consciousness? No, they just want you to speak about being a vegetarian. And he said, that's not such a big thing. Even pigeons are vegetarians. I think, anyway, I don't know. Pigeons maybe eat, New York pigeons eat whatever, but anyway.
Yeah, I saw one eating chicken.
Okay. Hare Krishna.
Okay. It's like cannibalism.
Exactly.
Anyway, so this story was told to me. Devotees in Croatia, in Europe, were trying to do this.
That's where Subhangada is from.
Huh?
Subhangada is from Croatia.
Oh, okay. I heard this story from Bhagavad-gita Maharaj, that after 1 year, they revealed to them that we're Hare Krishna devotees. And all of these people who were attending all of this for you said, what? You know, you should have told us that in the beginning. We don't want anything to do with Hare Krishna. And every one of them just walked out. So that's one example. The danger with bridge preaching is that there's a story that the Brahmin, I lost my caste and I'm still hungry. The Brahmin, he was like in a difficult situation and there was nothing to eat. So he went and ate in the house of a meat eater. And he was very, very hungry, and the meat eater could only supply him like 1/4 of what he needed to not be hungry anymore. And said, do you have any more? I said, no, sir, I'm sorry. That's all I can give you. And he just lamented, I've lost my caste and I'm still hungry. So devotees are meant to keep the principles of Krishna consciousness uncompromised. And if you compromise the principles, then you yourself, you know, instead of building a bridge for other people to cross to be on your side, you go over the bridge to their side, and you might lose your way to what to speak of bring the other people back on the bridge to your side, but you might find yourself stuck on their side of the bridge. And well, actually, what they're doing over here, and it's okay, you know, and mixing up material desires and mental speculation with some idea of spiritual life. Well, you know, you see people more happy, and maybe that's a little more natural for me to do it that way. And, you know, after all these rules and regulations, and, you know, it's just a little too difficult. And one of Prabhupada's earliest disciples, he left Prabhupada and he criticized, and he said Prabhupada will not be successful because he denies people the basic necessities of life, like eating meat and having sex, illicit sex. So, and again, that point of the direct presentation of Krishna consciousness, all Nija Sharva Shaktis, everything is there. So the full sun in the sky will do the ultimate benefit for everyone, whether one can take the full sun or just a little bit. But the sun is giving life to everyone. So Krishna and Krishna's holy name, full Krishna consciousness, its presentation is the best for everyone. Of course, you know, sensitivity and how it can be applied. But Lord Chaitanya personally demonstrated chanting Hare Krishna, and the devotee should do it, should be on the platform of bhava. Bhava means actually feeling transcendental happiness, which is so attractive. And Krishna, Lord Chaitanya says, this Sankirtan movement, it gives us a taste for the nectar, amrit, immortal happiness everyone is looking for. So even they can't take to it right away, or they didn't understand it right away, that impression, that most powerful impression is the best thing for people, because it will ultimately give them the chance to make the greatest advancement as soon as possible, even from our external calculation at a later date, even if that later date is the next lifetime. Yes.
Was there hatha yoga back then when Lord Chaitanya was?
Yoga, you know, these types of asanas, it's part of the Vedic system, but it was done for.
So why didn't Lord Chaitanya have like hatha yoga as part of the Sankirtan?
Bhakti yoga is the supreme yoga, because the goal of yoga, yoginam api sarvesham, of all yogis, he who is intimately, he who loves me and is rendering pure devotional service is most intimately. So yoga, if it's not progressive, to ultimately come to the stage of understanding three basic things will only have to be understood. All knowledge. Bhakti, Bhagavan, Bhakta, and Bhakti. God, the devotee, and the process of reciprocation. So, you know, there's yoga, actually, by controlling the breath. Prabhupada even said, he took the devotees to Kumbh Mela in 1971, be careful. There are yogis here who are like 3, 4, 5, even 600 years old, because your life is measured by breath. The more you can restrict your breathing, inhaling and exhaling, you live longer. Many devotees, many yogis are extended their life by this process. And you get mystic cities, like being able to control other people's minds, to get anything you want, to become larger than the largest, smaller than the smallest. But these are all just, like giving like a video game or a knock'em sock'em robot to a little kid, Christmas, happy birthday, wow, playing with toys. But it's not the real thing. It's not based on ultimate maturity or culminative use of one's intelligence in the perfectional stage, which is bhakti yoga. Actually, Krishna tells Lord Brahma in the second canto, the highest stage of intellectual ingenuity is to perceive me and serve me by realization. So, yoga could be useful to keep you healthy and to that your arms and legs work nicely and so many different things. But it has to be kept in perspective. It shouldn't be just thinking, I do yoga, I'm spiritual. One who is a devotee of the Supreme Lord, that's spiritual, nothing else. Prahlad Maharaj says to his classmates, without sincere devotional service, everything else is just a show. Hare Krishna. So we've gone to 7:30. So should we keep to our time limit? We're all living in New York City. We got things to do, places to go, and miles to go before we sleep. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. And everyone should read Srila Prabhupada's books regularly. That's as is important for chanting Hare Krishna. Lord Chaitanya says, Vidyavadu Jivanam. This chanting of Hare Krishna is the life and soul of all transcendental knowledge. And the Bhakti Shastras, or the literatures spoken by Krishna and spoken by his pure devotees, they're one and the same. So the reading of Srila Prabhupada's books are to, and Lord Chaitanya and Kaviraj Goswami says that one should not be lazy in understanding the conclusion of devotional service. One should study the Bhakti Shastras. This makes one's faith very strong, and no one can. Not only can you not be wavered, it actually says in the beginning of the Bhagavatam in the preface, one will be able to convert others to accepting Krishna, God, as a concrete principle. In other words, one becomes an Uttama Adhikari, and he can dissipate all doubts. And then, on that platform, your chanting of Hare Krishna assumes to the terrace of the highest level of ecstasy, Prema Bhakti. Hare Krishna. That is practice. We should practice to do that. Okay, so next time the speaker will begin on verse 3, where you'll hear about the different types of determination. Hare Krishna.